Hello and welcome to another Spectrum Geeks video. My name is Dale, and in today's video it's something a little bit different to normal. I'm talking about Junior SIPPs. That's right, a pension for your children or grandchildren. So typically on this channel I talk about kind of technology and gadgets and other things, but the channel is also about just things I'm interested in, things I research and want to kind of share with yourselves. And today I just wanted to mention about ways that you can save for your children or grandchildren that perhaps you're not obviously aware of. At least I wasn't back when I first started looking into it. So obviously raising a child in the UK or any country is very expensive. Statistics here in the UK says that on average it costs £193,000 to raise a child from when they're born all the way through to 18. So not cheap, but we do it because we love them. But obviously one thing, at least from my perspective, obviously you worry about being able to provide the best for them, and also worry about their future and how they'll be able to kind of provide for themselves. And also we do our best as we raise them to try and instill the right values, give them a good education so they can get a successful job. But obviously we won't be here forever, so how do we kind of help provide for them as we move forward? And that's something that I was kind of giving more and more consideration for to my children probably about 3 to 5 years ago. And what I decided to do back then was to open up junior ISAs for both of my children, and each month I'd put around £50 in there. I did this for a couple of reasons. One, that I wanted to obviously try and save a bit for their future, whether that's going to be for deposit for a house or university or whatever it is they decide to do. And kind of the reason I decided to do the junior ISA back then was, instead of putting money just in a savings account that if things got difficult I could borrow from. Again, you know yourself better than me if you've got the right strictness to not do that if you need to. Obviously there's pros and cons to that, but I decided to have the junior ISA, would then lock that money away, and I had it in stocks and shares ISA, a low cost index fund. And obviously the only negative of this is obviously once my children get to 18 they get access to whatever that money is that's grown over time. Just a little side note, at the time of doing this video my son's one has increased 98% over the last 3 to 5 years, which is absolutely fantastic, doing the right thing. But obviously when they get to 18 they get full access to those funds. And I don't know about you, but when I was 18 I just wanted a nice car. I wasn't interested or even thinking about the future or my longer term working life or what happened when I got to retire. But I decided that was a decision that, I'd happily take it. Hopefully do the best to raise your children when they get to 18, kind of re-educate them on kind of investing and saving and doing the right thing, so hopefully they didn't waste all that money. Well, last year, as I started to look into this a little bit more, something I never realised as I've been looking at my own pensions and future saving is when a child is born, you can actually open up a pension for them. So you can get a junior SIPP, so that's a private pension, and obviously they can't access that until they're 55, or actually be 57, I think, after 2028, I think it's something like that. So obviously this is a long way away, but it got me thinking about maybe that is now also a better way to save for my children's future. So I'll be long gone, but I will know that they will have something in retirement, in addition hopefully to their own savings investments that they have with their own career. And as I've spoken to a few people over the last kind of 6 to 8 months, it's dawned on me that lots of people really aren't aware that is even an option. So I thought I'd mention it on this channel because maybe others like you have children, perhaps you're planning to start a family, or perhaps you've got grandchildren and you have some funds that you might want to invest in your grandchildren's future. So I thought I'd just make you aware of a little bit about the fact that this is available, give you some kind of numbers to help it kind of sink home as to why this might be valuable. But I also mentioned, obviously, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just some guy on the internet sharing some of my thoughts and opinions, and I'd welcome your own thoughts, opinions on whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing down in the comments, and obviously have further discussion about it down there. So here in the UK, at the time of doing this, we're in 2024. We just started the new financial year. Anyone is eligible for a junior SIPP, to open that junior SIPP, so from when the child is born, and the maximum contribution at the moment per year is £3,600. But the advantage of the SIPP over an ISA is that the government will also put some money in there as well. So you get a 20% tax relief. So you put in a maximum of £2,880 per year, and the government will top that up with another £720 of basic tax. Obviously, in the future, when the recipient does access that pension, obviously they will have to pay tax on the money out, unlike they would with the ISA. But obviously the advantage that children have over us is that time really is money. They've got all those years of compound growth, so even adding a little bit of money can turn into hundreds of thousands, if not millions, in the future, if things go well. Of course, with all stocks and shares, past historical growths are not an indication of the future. Things can go up, things can go down, but I thought I'd look at some of the averages, which is kind of the reason why I have decided to pause what I've been doing with the junior ISAs and now focus on the SIPPs for a few years, just to get up to a certain amount and then just let the rest of their lives to have it grow. So obviously when I'm not here, regardless of what happens in my life, perhaps I'll spend all the money, that they'll have something. So a couple of things, we're going to flash some stuff up on the screen to give you a little bit of examples. As I said, I'm not a financial advisor, but in terms of what I look at things like the S&P 500. Obviously there's lots of statistics around there. US is still currently continues to show good return on investment, good growth. So the average returns of the S&P 500 since 1957 all the way through to 2023 has given an average of 10.26%. So that's the numbers that I'm going to use for my calculations. Again, could go up, could go down. Actually, in the last 10 years, the average return to the S&P 500 has been just over 13%. So again, 10 isn't too bad. You could be more conservative if you want, perhaps go down to 8 or 6. But this gives just some examples. And I will obviously just mention again, back to the things going up and down. So over the last 28 years, the worst returns on the S&P 500 was back in the 2008 crisis, where we had a negative 36.55%. The best in those 28 years was a growth of 37.2%. That's back in 1995. And if we look at this 2021, the average there, or the year's return, was 28.47%. So again, goes up and down, but we will stick with the 10% as our kind of number to do some compound interest numbers. Just before we move on, I will just mention, again, comparing the SIPPs to the ISAs, as mentioned, maximum for the SIPP, 3,600, but obviously £720 that comes from the government. If you're fortunate enough and you have even more money you want to put in, you could obviously add into the junior ISA, where that is limited to £9,000 per year. But let's look at a couple of examples of compound growth over some years. Had you done a junior SIPP for your child or grandchild at certain stages of their life? Okay, so the first one is, if on the day that your child was born, you were in a fortunate position where you could put that full amount, so the £3,600, obviously only the £2,880 out of your own wallet, into that junior SIPP. Obviously you have to have £2,500, which obviously is a good chunk of money, especially when times are difficult. But you put that into their SIPP and did nothing else. So that one-off £2,880, giving the £3,600, and then you left it until they retired at 57. the compound growth based on an average return of 10% over that 57 years, the child would have £1,213,558.58 for that initial £2,880 investment on the day that they were born, and then no more payments again through the whole time. So again, that's the ideal situation where you've got that spare money and you're doing it on day one and hoping that things continue to grow over their lifetime. As I mentioned, again, not a financial advisor. Obviously, there are things that you need to bear in mind. I recommend a global index fund, so you've got some diversity and you've got low management fees. Obviously, and the child, obviously, as they grow and get older, they would need to do some basic management, or I'd at least recommend some basic management of that fund. So it will obviously manage itself to some extent as an index fund, but you obviously want to track that you still continue to get that growth. But again, that's just an example. Relatively small amount of money in the larger scheme of things, but then when they come to retire would have 1.2 million, which is fantastic. All those years of growth. I wish I knew this, back when my children were born, perhaps when my parents had me. Next, let's look at another situation where money is more of an issue, but you decide that you could put £100 in when they were born, and then £10 a month, obviously from yourself, and then from them up until their retirement age, they would then have £421,138.51 at retirement. So again, just under £500,000, still pretty good for not a lot of money up front, and obviously then per month for the rest of their lives. I think most people would agree they'll be able to hopefully contribute more than that £10 a month over the time. Another one, perhaps obviously times were hard at the beginning, but people gave gifts, and grandparents or others could add some money. So perhaps at the age of 5, your child, you could add that £2,880 to give you the £3,600, and then obviously got another 52 years of growth until retirement. In that situation, they'd have £726,699.73, which again is also pretty awesome. And then the final example, whereas maybe when the child gets to 18, instead of perhaps you've saved up money to buy them their first car, perhaps you don't buy them their first car, you put that money into the Junior SIPP, and again then when they got to retirement age, that initial investment would have grown to £189,909.14. So I hope this video kind of gives some food for thought. It's something that I'd never really thought about, that being an option for children. Obviously, the most important thing is that you obviously take care for yourself and provide for your family now. But if you do have ability to save and invest in your children's future, maybe the Junior ISA or even the Junior SIPP is a good thing to consider. Perhaps you've got other recommendations on what people should do. I'll put a couple of links to a couple of YouTube channels that I like watching here in the UK. So I think it's James Shackle, I think it is. He has some great videos. He actually is a financial advisor, has lots of stuff on YouTube. And then Damien Talks Money is another great YouTube channel. They are experts at this, not someone who just kind of reads and has a general interest in this kind of stuff, just sharing my personal experiences. But obviously seek further financial advice and clarification before you do these things if you're not too sure about it. But again, perhaps you're a grandparent and you do have some money that you are looking to kind of share in your grandchildren's future. This might be an option that you can do something to invest and secure their future. So thanks so much for watching a different video to normal. Hopefully you've liked it. Please like and consider subscribing if you haven't done already. Consider supporting the channel by becoming a Spectrum Geeks YouTube member as well. But that's it for now. Until next video, take care of yourself and goodbye for now.